Hey everyone, and welcome to Feedback, episode 29. We're really excited about this one. We've seen Natacha 2 times this week, and she's joining us today in the function of a moderator for our discussion, and we're going to be talking with Øyvind Torvund about his epic work, Untitled School. Epic for us. It's a journey. And that's a piece that we premiered back when we played it at Issue Project Room in October of 2014. So about 6 years ago now. It still seems really fresh. Anyway, we're really excited that you both could join us here today. And I'll kick it right over to you, Natacha. Thanks.
Thanks, Russell. I am so excited to be here. I am a huge fan of Øyvind's music and especially of this piece. And Øyvind and I have crossed paths a bunch of times in the past, and it's really exciting to get to talk to him about this piece. So before we jump into the piece, I just wanted to ask a couple personal questions because Øyvind, you have a living situation that's a little bit unusual, I think, and I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that and also just about your day-to-day life when you're in work mode, which is something that I've always kind of been curious about.
Yes, thanks for inviting me, and nice to see you all. When I have when you say I have a special living situation, it sounds like I live in a cave or something. But no, I just live outside of Bergen on the west coast of Norway, on an island, but it's a big island, so it doesn't feel like it's just on the lighthouse or something, but maybe compared to your situation, I have a lot of nature around me, so that's a good thing now. And yeah, I like life is filled with composing mostly, and it's I have 2 kids, so it's also filled with kids and video games. But yeah, it's exciting to look back. It feels like 6 years is a long time ago. And I'm like with this piece, it's I don't often listen to my own music, but you have played it many times, so it's nice to also to have this opportunity to talk about that experience.
Yeah, well, let's just jump over there. We have some excerpts lined up so that maybe we can play those so that we can give our listeners an introduction to that, and then dive right in.
Before we do that, I wanted to remind everyone, as you're listening to these excerpts, if you have any questions about our discussion or about the piece, please feel free to email us at feedback@yarnwire.org or drop it in the chat on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll see if we can get to it. Whoa. I love how the slides never worked so well, Øyvind. So smooth.
An edit.
Nice.
Okay, cool. So let's get right into Untitled School. I wanted to ask you, Øyvind, about the origins of this piece. If this was an idea that you had before you started to work with Yarnwire, what the meaning of the title is, if anything, and if you took these ideas from Yarnwire, or if it was something that you developed with them over time.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about here. I think, first of all, the title is it's a bit confusing, isn't it? What is the Untitled School? I think I like titles which are a bit confusing, maybe, or that isn't that clear. Like the title could have been many other things. It could be like an exploration of nature and early abstract forms, or it could be the scales and the jungle, or but I ended up with Untitled School, and I don't know. Sometimes, like, I just like to play around with titles and see if if it makes sense. And yeah, so it made sense in the end for me. I don't know if you remember that the title came a bit late in the process.
Yeah.
All the movements, when I'm looking at the PDFs of our scores, they're named something totally different than even what the slides are called.
Yeah, totally.
So as we're going through, like, to this day, I'm like, what movement is this? You know, so I kind of love that ambiguity, because every time we kind of have to figure it out again, and that's fun.
It's good that you think it's fun. Could be a frustration too.
Is the title sort of a play on, just schools of thought within new music? So when there's like kind of a coalescing of ideas, sometimes people attach like the Darmstadt school or like, the downtown music scene or things like that. Is that sort of what you were playing off of? Is that this is a new school of jungle animals and abstract images and
No, not
sound to
directly.
music?
No, it's more kind of the presentation form of here's a slide, and it's I mean I like this kind of didactic form where you can put into that form maybe something more uncontrollable or chaotic. And I found this book which really inspired me at that time to work with slide images. It's a collection of 4 lectures, like art performance lectures, which is made into a book by Olaf Nicolai and Jan Wenzel. And this is much more focused, I would say, into the idea of labyrinths. But it makes these leaps of like connections from ancient images to
I see.
modern.
Was that your
concept.
circle that you saw that you showed us before?
No,
the
I
first page?
didn't take anything directly from here, but it was really inspired by this kind of catalog of images which explores one theme. And I think, yeah, it's this is a slideshow with text, and in this piece, Untitled School, it's the music that is kind of explaining or commenting on the images, and then it becomes much more vague, of course, and or open for discussion, or hopefully it's not too confusing. I wanted to have this kind of concentration into, so that you can really follow, but still be surprised by some kind of leaps.
Yeah, I definitely think you achieved that. So is the idea, the general idea that you came to the piece with was to have some kind of juxtaposition between these images and between the images and the music?
Yes, and I think it's kind of the theme that was maybe I don't remember, but I think that was settled quite early, that I want to work with images, and in the search for images, the music kind of grew out of that, and sometimes the other way around. I need some images for this, and yeah, I tried maybe to be inspired by the images, which can be so concrete, and it can set you to a specific place. And I long for that in music, that music to get away from the abstracted world that the music is caught in.
That's interesting because yeah, so I feel like the collection, I want to talk more about where you found the images. I'm personally curious about what the process was, how you found the collection of images that you did, if it was through a Google image search or things like that. But I also am interested in this, thing that you're talking about with having this concrete element from the images transferred into the music, because I almost feel like the way that you organized the images was very, of course you are a composer of music primarily, and so those elements were really present in the way that you organized the images to apply kind of an abstractness to the collection of images. So I thought that was really interesting. An interesting element of the piece actually is how it kind of went back and forth between concretizing the sound, the music, and then abstracting the images. Was that something that you were also thinking in the going back and forth?
Yeah, maybe, but it might be also that this is a way that your interpretation can kind of spin from it. I don't, but I think that for instance, when you start with a clear like pattern that you can understand, its colors and its lions and tigers and wild animals, and you go into like early tapestries, there was a connection there, and there is a connection there, but I'm not explaining it in the piece, so you have to kind of just accept it, and maybe something happens there where it's not clear anymore.
Yeah, I think that you do, the way that you present them, the connection is very clear, even though it's not told to the listener how it should be. It's very intuitive. So the images, so for their listeners that haven't watched the whole piece, the piece up until the Mud Jam, is filled with stock images of famous paintings, for example, by Rousseau, and then which are largely centered around jungle animals and flora. And then there's also images of tapestries, images of tapestries, and also Norwegian folk art. And so, Øyvind, I'm curious how you mined the stock art, for example, the Rousseau images. So was it through a Google search for tiger art or something, or do you have a special connection to Rousseau, or how did you do that?
Yes, it was, again, it was books that I had in the house. And one book was about abstract art and early folk art, which was kind of trying to make a connection or see a connection between the earliest abstract images, Malevich, the Black Square, and like the spiritual side of weaving squares, and to see if I don't know if the book was speculative or not, but certainly you have to be a bit speculative when making these kind of connections. So but for me it was kind of interesting to feel that this modernist thoughts have been with us maybe for a long time, and just trace it back to something that we don't know, but we can just see some patterns, and that was very inspiring for me.
Can you talk more about that, about the modernist thought that you saw in these books that you were searching through?
Well, it is very much about finding non-figurative art, and like in embroideries and stuff like that, and to ask, is there a reason for the patterns to be like this? Is it just because it's beautiful, or are there some kind of spiritual meaning here, and can we like see if it could be there could be a link to the earliest abstract art, which was also partly spiritual, and not just like a cold squares in space.
So the connection between the figurative paintings like the tigers and all those things, and then the abstract, can you talk more about that in terms of Untitled School?
Yeah, I think when I see it now, it's really like big jumps between materials. Maybe that's fine, but it's really like contrasts and like I think I stick to that path also, that I like the square materials, and I like the mud jam part in this piece where it's totally just unshapable masses of sound.
Could I ask real quick, because I remember, when I remember distinctly the time when you came and we were working on this, and I was like, "Where's Øyvind?" It's like 2 a.m. and you're like working in your room, just like compiling images and making the score, right? I remember that. That was pretty fun. But like we got the music, and like Ian and you taught us how to do these water bottle whammy things, all the sounds and everything, without actually knowing what images were going to come with those sounds. Like almost until the premiere, I remember like being at issue, and finally we're getting the patch working and looking back, or Laura's laughing because she can see it. And I'm wondering, like, if during the whole compositional process, if you knew those, like, exactly what images were happening, and it was just kind of the act of collecting, like what Natacha was talking about. It's a big project of collecting, or what that. It's like a chicken and egg question, right? It's like, was it the sound? Was it the image? Did they just come together naturally?
I think the lion images and the roars was that was intuitively there from the beginning, but there were a lot of things happening in the last days. Yeah. So
Cool.
Okay, maybe we can talk. I think I would like to talk about the interruptive pieces that appear, or I guess that's how I see them. I don't know if that's how you see them, but the Richter color block piece and the green circle one. So the Richter piece first appears in the first movement, right? And then it kind of appears throughout, and it has a very long solo moment. And the same with the circle piece, but the part where they become interruptive is in the jungle movement, when they start to sort of appear in these paintings that don't have any other material like that. And I'm really attracted to those moments. And so I wanted to know if you could talk about that, about their function, how you saw those pieces, if they're separate from the other artworks, or how they function for you.
yeah, I think that's something that was put in there a bit freely. Or the first time it appears, it is this kind of juxtaposition of an abstract painting and this old is it tapestry? Is that the word? But at least folk art.
Oh yeah,
And
that's right.
so it's a very simple. I think again, it's inspired by this, that
Yeah.
you could see that it's not a mirroring, but something that you can easily put in the same category. But then with the music, it appears maybe a third dimension, or at least a third thing, which is I hope can be open enough that it's you can connect it to images, but still not in an obvious way, or maybe it's taking the images in another direction than you would. So I don't know if it makes sense that the music is a bit like the text or the comments on the images. have this
Yeah.
the sound is acting as the lecturer, and you're not sure what you're learning, or
Yeah,
if you're
I
learning
love that. Is that also how you teach? Do you try to embody that when you teach?
That's why I not teach.
Oh, you don't teach. I was thinking I'm gonna start trying to do that when I teach more, but then I realized I probably do that already. My students are like, yeah, we have no idea what you're saying either. I love that idea though of so where did you, so this is a pedagogical idea, but you don't teach, you say, so how did you come into those ideas? Just from your own schooling, or?
No, but I mean I like to learn stuff, and I also like kind of the lecture as a format, where it starts straight and can take you in other directions. And another thing, I just bought this, like the biggest book I own. This is the Atlas of Images, collected by A.B. Warburg, German, and it's from 29. And now they just released it. There was this big exhibition in Berlin this year, but it was canceled. But I ordered the book, and this is
Wow.
a
That's
great
beautiful.
collection of panels of images, which are it's centered around mythology, but it's also taking contemporary images. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, I can see. Well, I don't
So
know
this
if
was
everybody
kind
else
of, the Zeppeliner was new at that time.
can. Oh,
So it's kind of Cosmos and this, which made sense to put together. So this is also, I mean, he was an art historian, but made kind of, not essays, but yeah, connections, maps without words. Try to map the mythologies.
so cool.
It's really inspiring to go into this and to see if, I mean, this is already old form of composing with images.
Øyvind, can I ask, I'm just so curious. I mean, do you draw or paint or sculpt or express yourself visually in any way at all?
Yes, I do, yeah. And lately I've been starting this series of pieces which have drawings projected along with the music.
Oh, beautiful.
But that's, I mean, I don't see myself as a visual artist at all, but I have that interest, and so.
The book makes you look like a little kid.
Yeah, exactly.
A bit like the longer I looked at it, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, it can transform you totally.
I think your visual style is pretty good. I've seen some of those slides, you know.
Yeah, thanks, but I wouldn't make an exhibition. But well, it's yeah, I'm drawing all the time now because I'm not writing music but drawing. But it's for music, and it's more kind of stage plots. So
Yeah.
Oh,
you can see kind of
wow.
Same ideas.
Great.
It's kind of plans for impossible concerts where like a lot of things can happen and still kind of cheap budget wise.
Well, even in the sketches for this piece, I remember we have a couple of those. Like some of the first things you sent us were drawings of like the mud jam instrument,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and things like that. And like, I thought it was a pretty cool way of communicating like what things are going to be all about, rather than words.
Yeah, just the drawing.
Yeah.
Did you say, Øyvind, that those were drawings for impossible concerts or possible concerts?
Well, it will be possible, but like the idea is that the concert is played live with the images projected, where the kind of stage plot and the whole thing is something more spectacular than is possible to do. So it could be like outdoors installations and flying objects, flying musicians, the whole Stockhausen tradition.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, it's something that I've made the last years. So this way with Untitled School is kind of not something I've made more pieces of, except for a piano piece.
So yeah, back to Untitled School. So there's an intuitive connection, like we've talked about, between the visuals and the music throughout the piece. But for me, the imitations movement is the least transparent in terms of that connection. I don't know how you feel about it, or maybe you can talk about that, whether you intentionally have less of a connection or if it's something that's just abstracted purposely or not purposely.
Yes, that's you're right, and I feel those images could easily be replaced and could be something else. It's more kind of it's hopefully not random, but it doesn't connect in the same way as in the rest of the piece.
They were somehow evocative, at least like communicated some feeling about the music, but it was difficult to make a direct connection.
Yeah.
Like a process or something, like
Right.
this is a visual version of like what we're doing.
Yeah.
Is the image that that Rob has pulled up from that?
That's from the percussion section of that.
Yeah.
Orchestra and piano and percussion is from the imitations movement?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's an original title.
Yeah. These are the titles
okay.
we're talking about. And
Yeah.
I think, is there a piano one also? I think that came also from I just wanted to use the two pianos in this piano reduction music of orchestra music, and
this
I remember
this was
struggling.
the most like traditional piano music that Ning and I have ever played together in this ensemble. In some ways, yeah.
And so in this movement, there's also recordings, right? Electronics have a recording in it. Can you talk about those? What is the recording of? Is it the same material?
Yes, we recorded it in at the Issue Project Room just the day before, and then we played the orchestra bits through the PA, and you play the percussion part on top of that.
Oh, I see.
yeah,
But
so three layers, right? There's the sample.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Published sample, and then we kind of imitated it with your music, but you recorded that, and then we imitated ourselves on top of that.
That had a great result. I think maybe partly because of where you guys performed it, because Issue is so boomy. So like, recording it there, so you have this reverb, and then playing it back through the speakers in the same venue, so you have double reverb. It really had a nice. I didn't make that connection, and maybe it was just me, but I didn't know that it was you guys that had recorded that. So that's pretty cool.
But I must say also that the ensemble is, I mean, I was really encouraged to work freely, and in this kind of workshop way, everything is possible. Like homemade instruments, a 10-minute jam in the middle of the piece, no problem. And that's such an amazing feeling of freedom, which I wished it was more often. I mean, I feel it's quite often like this, but not all the time. And that's really something.
Yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit more about that. So how long did you workshop the piece? How long were you in New York to workshop the piece, and how was that process? Did you meet every day, or what was it like?
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Maybe like 4 or 5 days of intense work in New York.
Yeah, when did you must have been here a week.
I think so. Yeah.
That feels right. Yeah, that seems right.
But we did have music before, like some parts to practice or
Right.
That's
And you
true.
had
Yeah.
sent us like pictures of the Mud Jam sketch and like the Mud Jam instruments, and I think we like had no idea even what it was going to be. We just built it based on your specifications. Um and yeah, and we got music and didn't really know how to really interpret it until we kind of workshopped it at the studio together.
That specifically, or the whole Untitled School?
I think even the whole thing. Many
Yeah.
parts of it, not all of it, but like definitely the campfire tunes.
I
Definitely
had to learn how
the
to play the guitar
imitations.
for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
imitations where we recorded the thing and then played to it. I mean, this isn't to say that like it all just came together, but like our real understanding and ability to play it happened when Øyvind was here. You know, we did as much as we could before that, and then he was making edits. I feel like I remember eating breakfast and you coming out. You're like, "Here's some new stuff," something like that. You know, and it's like, "All right, here we go." You know, into the space.
And it sounds like, Øyvind, maybe you also figured out um, some of the piece while you were working with the ensemble. Is that right?
Absolutely. And until this day, I regret that it wasn't finished because I missed to be a tourist in New York. I was like working
true.
all the time. No, but that's what I love the most, to sit in a studio and work with musicians. So no, but I think it shows also that you have this connection to very different types of music and different approaches to music making, and that's also I feel I wanted to use in a way, so you can have this kind of condensed chamber music, but with some like guitar effect pedals and like that. For me, it doesn't feel like a construction. I don't know if it feels that way for you too, either. I mean,
feels
Um,
like a what? Like a
no, it's I didn't sit down and think, now I will make chamber music, but with some underground noise on top of it.
oh,
It's
oh
more
yeah.
kind of a
Yeah. No, it all feels
It-
Yeah.
yeah, supernatural. I feel
yeah.
like, yeah.
And I
And
remember too at the premiere at this concert that it was, this was paired with Anne Claire's piece for us, which we talked about earlier in this series. And those pieces are both so different. And I think that they're like, I remember, for example, my roommate at the time came to the concert, and he is not a musician himself and is, vaguely familiar with, a lot of standard classical repertoire. And one thing I remember a lot of people saying to me, including him after the concert, was that this that all of these elements, the homemade instruments, the visual elements, the references to classical music, it was such a rich experience for them, and they were really, really drawn into this piece And then there were other people who connected very differently to the other work on the program. But I have that distinct memory that, all of these elements work together to form something that is actually super inviting. At the same time, it's also, challenging and piques people's curiosity, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe can we talk about the mud jam a little bit, actually, since we're on that topic. So Øyvind, you had these, maybe can you talk about the homemade instruments? Was that something that you had already done in the past, or you just kind of wanted something that was a very simple music maker, or?
No, I made a piece 2003 or something with an instrument like that. And yeah, it has come back in some pieces. But this time I felt really ambitious to kind of, if I could make this transformation from this chamber music and into a totally different approach that could really last some time. And I mean, I feel that's a big challenge in the piece for you, the musicians, to do that and to stand for it and not. Yeah, I don't know. It would be curious to hear, since you played it many times. How does that feel to go into that and back again and end the piece?
I think the first time when we worked on it with you, it was difficult to not kind of rush through the process of playing that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like especially that section is difficult to rehearse because it relies a lot on the space being dark, it being very loud, and kind of like a performance energy. So yeah, but I definitely feel like we always kind of finish that section, and then the rest of the piece feels very different after that section has been played.
Mm-hmm.
I would add that, I agree that first time was like, we didn't know, right? And we did it, and it worked pretty well. But then every subsequent performance, I feel like before we go out to play this piece, because this piece takes a whole half, of a concert, whether it's the first or the second, we're like, all right, mud jam. And like just get psyched on it. And because like we know that, once you get there, just the rest of the piece might have happened before it, but you're in the mud from then on, and it's like, not too fast. Okay, let's do, and we kind of are figuring out the instruments at the time, and it's really special. And then we're done with it, and the rest, it's kind of like just a little coda at the end. We're pretty much done with the piece after mud jam, but we kind of have to come back and then Laura plays the guitar, which is awesome. But like we played this in LA, and I think a reaction I got, I think from my dad, he was like, I just wanted to scream,
He
And
wanted to stand up and scream.
he wanted to stand up and scream in a good way. And then like also other people wrote about it or told us later, they're like, I mean, the mud jam, really, like the concert became the mud jam, and it's amazing, so like that you gave, the instructions to make these things, the instructions on ways to proceed through what it is, and then we have to navigate that every time, and it's awesome.
Could
I
we
think it was
listen?
also,
Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No, I was just going to say really quickly, we also had a group of students play this at our institute one summer. So we also had the benefit of help teaching it, coaching other people how to play it, and then to sit back and experience it as an audience member, which was really awesome too. I think that always changes my perception of what a piece is and how it can be experienced.
Could we listen to some of the mud jam? I had that third
yeah.
excerpt requested. That was 1250 to 1410.
Yep. Wow. I mean, that's like the tip of the iceberg. Were
Is
you guys
this the
thinking ever
most
big?
fun that we've ever had playing anything? Maybe. It might be
Maybe
among
other
the
than
top
Panic
moments.
Dread, you know? Other than
Yeah.
There was that one concert we played this piece in Milwaukee, and it was impossible to make the room dark at all. And so the solution we devised, which was hilarious for us, was that the four of us would go behind a curtain, and the speakers were set up in a kind of a more spatialized way, but the four of us had to be in the same place. And so it was odd to play that section for each other in close quarters, but like looking at each other. It's almost embarrassing, or it's
Yeah.
not embarrassing, but somehow like revealing. I don't know.
Yeah, because when we normally play it, we can't see each other. We can only hear and react, and that's so bewildering. But yeah, I remember like looking over and you're just like jamming on this thing. And it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, those were
I
the
mean,
travel mud jams. Probably less effective as
that's
the
good.
full styles.
I think there might be a video of the instrument, because it's kind of instructive to see. This is one of you, Ian, that you have made. It's going to be a second.
They were fun
Yeah,
to
that's
make.
it. That's a question we always get from audience members is what were you playing? How do you get that sound? What is it? Because they can't see. So
Here it goes.
So
I think that was the
cool.
first one you made.
Yeah, probably. I think so.
Well, okay, we're almost out of time here. So I was hoping if I could ask about whether there's a connection between the material used in this piece and your Exotica album from 2019, Øyvind.
Yes, I think there's a connection in this material where, like in the imitation section, where you have quite pompous orchestral tonal material with noises. This is something that I made maybe because I like this combination. And so the Exotic album has a lot of that, but it's more kind of written out tunes, new tunes, and sort of written out noises on top. So it's, I mean, the Exotic album doesn't have any image, but the theme of like this kind of obsession with jungles and in all or in many forms, that the representation it has, like in my mind or maybe some collective mind, and yeah, it's, I think it stops a bit there, but for sure Untitled School was like one step that pushed me in this direction.
And you mentioned that you haven't used this material in other pieces. Was that just referring to the images, or?
Yes, yeah, I think, and also I could maybe imagine making a cycle of Untitled Schools, and I like also hearing a piece like this. I mean, I like the ideas. I want, but I want to change it. But that's, I just have to accept that that was then. but I don't know if you have it like this, that there, you can hear the potential, but not like that.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you.
Natasha, were you at the premiere?
Yeah,
You were.
yeah,
Yeah, that's right. I'm recalling.
of course I was. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But I
awesome.
think it's also really a live piece, and it's hard when you're kind of shaped by listening to this kind of reducing format that we have
Mhm.
on YouTube or whatever. So kind of you're missing out on a lot of things that hopefully works live.
Yeah, definitely. I think the scene, like the stage, the lighting, the way that things are projected. I know we've done it in so many different ways now. We know what works and what doesn't, and I think being there physically is kind of important, to hear the space around you. Also, we have all these cassette players and, we're always turning them on and off, and I think to see where sound is coming from is pretty crucial, actually.
Do you have any, have you thought about what a video version of, like a music video version of this piece might look like, or do you not have an interest in that?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I haven't thought of it like that. Also, maybe because the Mud Jam and the ambition that this should change the whole experience, or we go into this from the chamber piece into this with a lot of images, and then suddenly it's dark and it's it's just jam. And I think it's just that's for me, that's the most interesting part of the piece. That okay, let's change the whole setting now, and can it work? And if not, then maybe it was worth it after all.
Yeah.
Because it could be thought of or understood just like jam session. I know, and then the listener stops there. And I don't want it to be like that. Of course, I want this kind of transformative thing, or that you're not just seeing or just categorizing it as something that you know. But this is probably a challenge just for the listeners and for the musicians, just to really believe in it and just go further or outside of that that chamber music thing, that concentration. And I don't know if how possible is that. I mean, to
remember
just like go into this other type of playing.
That's what you would always tell us, I think, in rehearsals, was like, go further, and we're like, what is it? What does that mean? And then in performance, you know what it means. Actually, like once you're in performance, it's like, okay, yeah, I got it. It's like real abstract until you kind of do it. And like, to your question, Natasha, the music video thing, I feel like when I watch this piece on YouTube or whatever to check it out, I actually skip over Mud Jam, and I can only imagine like what viewers would do, because it just has the text and you can't see anything. It's just kind of a random still, and then there's audio, and like what you're saying, Øyvind, you kind of have to be there to really know what it is. So it almost doesn't make sense to even have that documented, except we have to to show what the piece is. And I don't know how we would do that in a video format, unless there's like 4 little pigs in mud, like.
Well, or there would just have to be, it sounds like there would need to be like something that replaced that in order to give the feeling of transformation and of that, like which I think it's important for video to do when it replaces performance anyway, is to be different and greater than that. But If we have time for one more excerpt, we skipped over the invitations one. It would be nice to maybe end with that.
Sure, yeah, let's check that out.
Can we do that? Well, I think that's all we have time for, but thank you so much, Øyvind. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you all. It's really really nice to meet up and talk about this.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Thanks
Natacha.
for having me again, Jørn.
Yeah, it's nice to see you 2 times this week.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And I just wanted to let you know that our next episode is on Tuesday, December 8th, and we're going to be talking with Thomas Meadowcroft and Lara Pellegrinelli about Walkman Antiquarian, which is another piece from around, actually, this time period, a little bit before. Remember to subscribe to our channel to be informed of all the episodes coming up this year and next. And remember to support this project, to visit our page on patreon.com, where you can find out a little bit more about what's going on and dig even deeper. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Have a good weekend.